Nobody tells you what it feels like when your whole world crashes in one single moment. When everything you built, every rule you lived by, every line you swore you'd never cross just disappears because of one person. That's exactly what happened to Marcus Kane, the most feared mob boss on the West Coast. This guy ran the streets of LA for over 15 years, made grown men shake just hearing his name, never showed weakness, never broke his own code. But then she walked into his life and bro, everything changed. Her name was Sophie Mitchell and she was absolutely off limits. Like, the most forbidden person he could ever fall for. Her dad? Yeah, Captain Robert Mitchell, the cop who'd been hunting Marcus for years, the same guy who swore he'd put Marcus behind bars no matter what it took. And Marcus knew it, he knew from day one this was gonna be a disaster. But sometimes your heart doesn't care about logic, doesn't care about consequences, doesn't care about the war that's coming. This is the story of a man caught between love and loyalty, between everything he built and everything he never knew he wanted. And trust me, what happens next is gonna blow your mind. Hey, real quick before we dive deeper into this crazy story, if you're hooked already and want to see how this impossible love between a mob boss and a cop's daughter plays out, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the like. Seriously, you don't want to miss what happens next because this story has more twists than a California highway. Plus, when you subscribe, you'll get notified every time we drop these intense, mind-blowing stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. This channel is all about those forbidden love stories, the ones that make your heart race and your mind go wild. So do yourself a favor, subscribe now and let's continue this journey together. Trust me, you'll thank yourself later. Alright, so let me paint you the full picture here. Marcus Kane wasn't just some random gang leader, nah, this dude was the real deal. He started from nothing, grew up in South Central, watched his mom work 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, saw his neighborhood get torn apart by violence and poverty. By the time he was 16, Marcus made a choice. He decided he'd rather be feared than forgotten, rather build an empire than watch his family struggle. And that's exactly what he did. 15 years later, Marcus controlled everything from the docks in Long Beach to the clubs in Hollywood. He moved product, ran protection rackets, had politicians and judges in his pocket. But here's the thing about Marcus that most people didn't know, he had rules, a code he never broke. No kids, no innocent civilians, no unnecessary violence. He kept his business tight, professional, almost corporate in a twisted way. His crew respected him not just because they feared him but because he took care of them, made sure their families were straight, their kids went to good schools. Marcus was a contradiction, a criminal with honor, a villain who somehow still had a conscience buried deep inside. Now let's talk about Captain Robert Mitchell. This guy was a legend in the LAPD, 25 years on the force, decorated officer, the kind of cop they make movies about. He'd taken down drug cartels, busted human trafficking rings, put away some of the most dangerous criminals in California. But Marcus Kane was his white whale, the one that got away every single time. Mitchell had been hunting Marcus for 7 years, came close a few times, but Marcus was always 3 steps ahead, always had an alibi, always covered his tracks perfectly. It became personal for Mitchell, an obsession that cost him his marriage, made him miss his daughter's childhood, consumed every waking moment. His ex-wife Linda would tell him he cared more about catching Marcus Kane than being a father, and honestly, she wasn't wrong. Mitchell believed that putting Marcus away would somehow justify all the sacrifices, all the missed birthdays and school plays, all the family dinners he skipped. In his mind, Marcus represented everything wrong with the city he loved, and stopping him would make everything worth it. And then there was Sophie Mitchell, 24 years old, fresh out of grad school with a degree in social work. Sophie grew up watching her dad become a ghost, always chasing bad guys, never around when she needed him. Her parents divorced when she was 12, and she lived with her mom in Santa Monica while her dad buried himself in work. Sophie resented him for years, felt abandoned, felt like she'd never be as important as his job. But despite all that pain, or maybe because of it, Sophie dedicated her life to helping people. She volunteered at community centers, worked with at-risk youth, believed in second chances and redemption. Sophie had this energy about her, this light that drew people in. She was beautiful, yeah, with long dark hair and these intense green eyes, but it was more than that. She had this genuine warmth, this ability to see the good in people even when they couldn't see it in themselves. Sophie believed that people weren't born bad, that circumstances and choices and pain shaped them, and that everyone deserved a chance to be better. Her friends called her naive, told her she was too trusting, too optimistic for the harsh reality of LA streets. But Sophie didn't care, she believed what she believed, and nothing could shake that faith in humanity. The first time Marcus saw Sophie was completely by accident, a random moment that would change everything. It was a Tuesday night in late September, and Marcus was meeting with some business associates at this upscale restaurant in Santa Monica, the kind of place where celebrities and power players made deals over $20 cocktails. He was walking out after the meeting, heading to his car, when he saw her. Sophie was standing outside a community center across the street, talking to a group of teenagers, laughing at something one of them said. The streetlight caught her hair just right, and for a second Marcus just stopped and stared. He didn't know who she was, didn't know anything about her, but something about her presence made him pause. She had this glow about her, this genuine joy that seemed so foreign to his world. Marcus shook it off, got in his car and drove away, but her image stayed in his mind. He found himself thinking about her at random moments, wondering who she was, what made her smile like that. It was weird for him, unsettling even, because Marcus never got distracted, never let anything interfere with business. But this random woman he saw for 30 seconds had somehow gotten under his skin. 3 weeks later, Marcus saw her again. He was checking on one of his legitimate businesses, a restaurant in West Hollywood that he used to clean money. Sophie walked in with 2 friends, sat at a table near the window, ordered brunch. Marcus was in the back office reviewing books when his manager mentioned a beautiful woman who asked about their community partnership program. Marcus came out to the dining area, and there she was, the same woman from that night in Santa Monica. Up close she was even more stunning, but it was the way she carried herself that really got him. She was confident but humble, passionate when she talked about helping kids in rough neighborhoods, completely oblivious to the fact that she was sitting in a restaurant owned by the most dangerous man in LA. Marcus introduced himself as the owner, used his legitimate business identity, and they talked for almost an hour about youth programs and community outreach. Sophie had no idea who he really was, and Marcus found himself wanting to keep it that way, wanting to be normal for just a little while, to be Marcus the restaurant owner instead of Marcus Kane the mob boss. They started seeing each other regularly after that, always casually, always in public places. Coffee shops, parks, art galleries. Marcus told himself he was just curious, just entertained by this woman who seemed to live in a completely different world than his. But deep down he knew it was more than that, knew he was playing with fire. Every time they met he learned something new about her. She loved old jazz music, volunteered at animal shelters on weekends, could quote poetry from memory, believed in astrology even though she knew it was probably nonsense. Sophie made him laugh, genuinely laugh, something he hadn't done in years. She challenged his cynical worldview, argued with him about human nature and second chances, refused to accept his dark perspective on life. And slowly, without even realizing it, Marcus started falling for her, started imagining a different life, started wondering if maybe he could be someone else, someone worthy of a woman like her. It was dangerous thinking, the kind of thinking that got people killed in his world, but Marcus couldn't help it. For the first time in 15 years, he wanted something more than power and respect. He wanted connection, wanted love, wanted to wake up next to someone who saw the man he could be instead of the criminal he was. 2 months into whatever they were calling this thing between them, Sophie finally opened up about her family. They were sitting on Venice Beach watching the sunset, sharing a bottle of wine Marcus brought, and she just started talking about her childhood, her absent father, the resentment she carried for years. Marcus listened, his stomach twisting with every word, because he knew what was coming before she even said it. Then Sophie dropped it casually, like it was no big deal. "My dad's a cop," she said, "a captain, actually works major crimes, totally obsessed with his job, barely knows I exist." Marcus felt his blood run cold, felt every alarm in his head going off at once. He asked her name, even though part of him already knew, already felt the universe laughing at the cosmic joke being played on him. "Sophie Mitchell," she said with a sad smile, "daughter of Captain Robert Mitchell, the guy who thinks catching criminals is more important than being a father." And right there, in that perfect moment watching the sun dip below the Pacific, Marcus realized he was completely screwed. The woman he was falling for, the woman who made him want to be better, was the daughter of the man who wanted to destroy him, the cop who devoted 7 years to putting him in prison for life. Marcus should have walked away right then, should have made up an excuse and disappeared from her life forever. That's what the smart play was, what any rational person would do. But Marcus wasn't thinking rationally anymore, wasn't thinking like the careful, calculated crime boss who'd survived this long by never taking unnecessary risks. He was thinking like a man who'd found something real in a world full of lies, something genuine in a life built on deception. So he stayed, told himself he could manage it, keep his 2 worlds separate, protect Sophie from the truth while figuring out what to do. It was delusional, dangerous, absolutely reckless. But love makes you do crazy things, makes you believe you can bend reality to your will, makes you think the rules that apply to everyone else somehow don't apply to you. The next few weeks were the best and worst of Marcus's life. Every moment with Sophie was pure magic, those rare times when he could forget who he was and just be present, just be a normal guy falling for an incredible woman. They'd spend hours talking about everything and nothing, walking through Griffith Park, checking out new restaurants in Silver Lake, catching late-night movies at indie theaters. Sophie would tell him about her work with at-risk kids, the teenagers she was trying to keep off the streets, the ones who reminded her that people could change if given the chance. And Marcus would listen, feeling like the biggest hypocrite alive, because he was part of the problem she was trying to solve, part of the system that created those broken kids in the first place. But when she looked at him with those green eyes full of hope and possibility, he could almost believe he was the man she thought he was, the restaurant owner with a good heart who cared about his community. But reality has a way of crashing through fantasy, and Marcus's double life was getting harder to maintain. His crew started noticing he was distracted, making decisions slower than usual, showing up late to meetings. His right-hand man, a guy named Victor who'd been with him since day one, pulled him aside one night and asked what was going on. Marcus brushed it off, said he was handling some personal business, but Victor wasn't buying it. "Bro, you're slipping," Victor said, "and in our world slipping gets you killed. People are talking, wondering if you're losing your edge, if maybe it's time for new leadership." Marcus knew Victor was right, knew his obsession with Sophie was creating vulnerabilities, but he couldn't stop. He was in too deep, too invested, too in love to walk away now. Then came the night that changed everything, the moment when Marcus's carefully constructed worlds finally collided. It was a Friday in December, and Sophie invited him to a family dinner. Her mom was cooking, trying to reconnect with her daughter after years of distance, and Sophie wanted Marcus to meet her. "It'll just be me, my mom, and unfortunately my dad," Sophie said with an eye roll. "He's actually taking a night off for once, probably feels guilty for missing Thanksgiving." Marcus should have said no, should have made up any excuse in the world. But Sophie gave him this hopeful look, said it would mean a lot to her, and Marcus heard himself saying yes before his brain could catch up. He told himself it would be fine, that Captain Mitchell had never seen his face, that Marcus Kane the criminal and Marcus the restaurant owner were completely different identities. But deep down he knew he was walking into a minefield with a blindfold on. The dinner was at Sophie's mom's house in Santa Monica, a nice suburban spot with a white picket fence and flowers in the front yard. Marcus showed up with wine and flowers, dressed casual but nice, looking like any normal boyfriend meeting the parents for the first time. Sophie's mom Linda was sweet, welcoming, clearly happy that her daughter had found someone who made her smile. They made small talk in the living room and Marcus was starting to think maybe this would actually be okay, maybe he could pull it off. Then the front door opened and Captain Robert Mitchell walked in still wearing his police uniform, looking tired and older than his years. Marcus stood up to shake his hand, and for one terrible second their eyes met. Mitchell's handshake was firm, professional, and his gaze was sharp, assessing, the look of a cop who'd spent decades reading people and situations. "Nice to meet you," Mitchell said. "Sophie tells me you own a restaurant." Marcus nodded, kept his voice steady, gave his rehearsed story about business and community involvement. But the whole time his heart was pounding, adrenaline flooding his system, every instinct screaming at him to run. Dinner was torture, 2 hours of Marcus playing the perfect boyfriend while sitting across from the man who wanted to destroy him. Mitchell asked questions, casual on the surface but probing underneath, wanting to know where Marcus grew up, how he built his business, what his plans were with his daughter. Marcus answered carefully, sticking to his cover story, using the legitimate background he'd created years ago for exactly this kind of situation. Sophie was oblivious to the tension, happy and relaxed, holding Marcus's hand under the table while talking about a charity event she was planning. Her mom told embarrassing childhood stories trying to lighten the mood, but Mitchell stayed quiet for most of the meal, just watching, just analyzing. Marcus could feel the cop's suspicion, could see the wheels turning behind those hard eyes, and he knew this was a mistake, knew he just painted a target on his own back. After dinner, Mitchell asked Marcus to step outside for a smoke, even though Marcus didn't smoke. They stood on the back porch under the stars and Mitchell got straight to the point. "I'm gonna be honest with you," he said, lighting a cigarette. "I don't know you, don't know anything about you, and that bothers me. My daughter doesn't let people in easily, had her heart broken before, and I'll be damned if I let some guy hurt her again. So here's the deal, I'm gonna look into you, run your name, check your background, make sure you're who you say you are. If you're clean, great, we're cool. But if I find out you're lying to her, if you're using my daughter for whatever reason, I will make your life a living hell. Understood?" Marcus nodded, kept his expression neutral, said he understood completely, that he cared about Sophie and only wanted what was best for her. Mitchell studied him for a long moment, then crushed out his cigarette and went back inside. And Marcus stood there alone in the dark, knowing that everything was about to fall apart, knowing that it was only a matter of time before Mitchell connected the dots and realized that his daughter's boyfriend was the criminal he'd been hunting for 7 years. Hey, what do you think about this situation so far? I mean, Marcus is literally dating his enemy's daughter, and now the captain is gonna investigate him. This is getting intense, right? Drop a comment below and tell me what you're thinking. Do you think Marcus should come clean to Sophie before her dad finds out? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to hide something important from someone you loved? Or maybe you know someone who lived through something like this. Share your story in the comments, we really want to hear from you. Your comments help me understand what kind of content you want to see more of, and honestly, it keeps me motivated to bring you these crazy emotional stories. So take a second, leave a comment, let's talk about it. And please, stick around until the end because what's about to happen next is absolutely wild, and you're gonna want to know how Marcus deals with the impossible choice he's facing. Trust me, the ending is gonna leave you speechless. Marcus had 72 hours before Mitchell's background check would start hitting walls, before the fake identity would start showing cracks, before the whole house of cards came crashing down. He knew this because he had people inside the LAPD database system, people who owed him favors, people who kept him informed. And sure enough, 3 days after that dinner, Marcus got the call. Mitchell was digging, asking questions, requesting files, and it was only a matter of time before he figured it out. Marcus had two choices: disappear from Sophie's life completely and let her think he was just another guy who ghosted her, or come clean and tell her the truth before her father did. Both options were terrible, both would destroy her, but at least one gave him a chance to explain, to make her understand that what they had was real even if everything else was a lie. He chose the truth because that's what you do when you really love someone, even when the truth is gonna tear them apart. Marcus asked Sophie to meet him at the restaurant after hours, said he needed to talk to her about something important. She showed up wearing this yellow sundress, smiling like always, completely unaware that her world was about to shatter. They sat in a back booth, the restaurant empty and quiet, just the two of them and the weight of what Marcus was about to say. He started slow, told her he hadn't been completely honest about who he was, that there were things about his life she didn't know, things that would change how she saw him. Sophie's smile faded, and Marcus watched confusion turn to concern in her eyes. "Just tell me," she said quietly, "whatever it is, just say it." So Marcus told her everything. Not all the gory details, not the violence and the blood and the bodies, but enough. Enough for her to understand that he wasn't just a restaurant owner, that the man she'd been falling for ran a criminal empire, that her father had been hunting him for years, that their entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies. He watched Sophie's face go through stages of emotion: disbelief, shock, anger, betrayal, pain. She didn't cry at first, just sat there processing, her hands shaking on the table between them. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "You knew," she said, "you knew who my father was and you still pursued me, still let me fall for you, knowing this whole thing was impossible." Marcus tried to explain that he didn't plan it, didn't know who she was until it was too late, that by the time he found out he was already in too deep. But Sophie wasn't hearing it, wasn't accepting excuses or justifications. The questions came fast after that, each one cutting deeper than the last. "Did you ever actually care about me, or was I just a game to you? Were you using me to get to my father? Was any of it real?" Marcus answered honestly, told her that everything between them was real, that she was the only genuine thing in his life, that he'd fallen in love with her despite knowing it would destroy him. But words felt empty in that moment, felt inadequate against the magnitude of the betrayal. Sophie stood up, told him she needed time to think, needed space to process everything. She looked at him with those green eyes now filled with tears and said something that broke him completely. "I believed in you, believed you were different, believed that maybe I'd finally found someone who saw me for who I really am. But you're just like everyone else, just another person who lied to me, just another disappointment." And then she walked out, left Marcus sitting alone in that empty restaurant, feeling like he'd just lost the only thing that ever really mattered. But the story doesn't end there, because life is never that simple, never that clean. 3 days later, Sophie showed up at Marcus's penthouse apartment unannounced. He opened the door to find her standing there looking exhausted, like she hadn't slept since their conversation. "Can I come in?" she asked, and Marcus stepped aside, his heart pounding because he had no idea what was coming next. Sophie walked to the window overlooking downtown LA, stood there for a long moment before turning to face him. "I've been thinking nonstop about everything you told me," she said, "and I'm so angry at you, so hurt by the lies. But I'm also angry at myself because despite everything, despite knowing what you are and what you've done, I can't just turn off my feelings for you. I can't just stop loving you because it would be easier or make more sense." Marcus started to speak, but Sophie held up her hand. I'm not finished, she said. I spent 3 days trying to hate you, trying to convince myself that everything we had was fake, that you manipulated me from the start. But I keep coming back to the moments we shared, the conversations, the way you looked at me, the way you made me feel seen and understood. And I realized something: the man I fell in love with is real. Maybe he's buried under layers of violence and crime, maybe he's someone you've been trying to escape for years, but he's real. I saw him, felt him, and I don't think that was an act. Sophie paused, wiping tears from her face. So here's what I need to know, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Do you want out? Not just out of this relationship, but out of that life, out of the darkness you've been living in? Because if you do, if you really want to be the man I saw glimpses of, then maybe we can figure this out together. But if you're just gonna stay who you are, if you're not willing to walk away from that world, then this conversation ends right now and we never see each other again. Marcus felt something shift inside him in that moment, felt the weight of the choice being laid out in front of him. Everything he'd built over 15 years, the power, the respect, the empire, versus a chance at something real, something pure, something he never thought he could have. It should have been an easy choice, should have been obvious. But anyone who's ever been in that position knows it's never that simple. Marcus thought about his crew, the people who depended on him, the enemies who'd see his exit as weakness, the chaos that would follow if he just walked away. But then he looked at Sophie standing there offering him redemption, offering him love, offering him a way out of the prison he'd built for himself, and Marcus realized that he'd already made his decision the moment he fell for her. He'd just been too scared to admit it until now. I want out, Marcus said, and as the words left his mouth he felt both terrified and relieved. I've wanted out for longer than I care to admit, but I didn't know how, didn't think it was possible. This life, it's all I've known for so long, and walking away means making a lot of dangerous people very unhappy. But you're right, the man you fell for is real, and he's been suffocating under the weight of Marcus Kane the criminal for years. If you're willing to help me, willing to stand by me through whatever comes next, then yeah, I want out. I want to be someone worthy of you, someone who doesn't have to lie about who he is, someone who can actually build a real life instead of just surviving. Sophie crossed the room and took his hands, and Marcus saw something in her eyes that gave him hope. It's gonna be hard, she said, really hard. We're gonna have to be smart about this, careful. My dad can't know about us, not yet, not until you're completely clear of your past. And you're gonna have to prove to me every single day that this is what you really want, that you're not gonna change your mind when things get tough. Marcus pulled her close, held her tight, and promised that he wouldn't let her down, that he'd do whatever it took to leave his old life behind and become the man she deserved. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, there was light at the end of the tunnel, a way forward that didn't end in violence or prison or death. But what neither of them knew in that moment, what they couldn't possibly predict, was that Captain Robert Mitchell was closer to the truth than they realized, and the storm that was coming would test their love in ways they never imagined. Getting out of the game isn't like quitting a regular job where you give 2 weeks notice and move on with your life. In Marcus's world, leaving meant navigating a minefield of loyalty, territory, and violence. He started carefully, gradually transferring operations to Victor, his right-hand man who'd been with him since the beginning. Marcus told him he was stepping back for personal reasons, that he needed to focus on legitimate business ventures, that it was time for new leadership. Victor wasn't happy about it, could sense something was off, but he respected Marcus enough not to push too hard. The transition took weeks, required delicate negotiations with suppliers, distributors, and rival organizations who all wanted to know why the most powerful crime boss in LA was suddenly retiring. Marcus played it smart, made it about health concerns, said he wanted to enjoy life before it was too late, painted a picture that made sense without revealing the real reason. But there were people who weren't buying it, people who saw weakness and opportunity, people who started making moves the moment they sensed Marcus was vulnerable. Meanwhile, Sophie was helping him build a legitimate exit strategy, using her connections in the nonprofit world to set up community programs funded by Marcus's legitimate businesses. It was a way to launder his reputation, to show the world a different side of him, to create distance between who he was and who he wanted to become. They worked together late into the night, planning, strategizing, dreaming about a future where Marcus could walk down the street without looking over his shoulder, where they could be together openly without fear or secrets. And slowly, painfully, Marcus started dismantling the empire he'd spent 15 years building. He divested from illegal operations, shut down money laundering schemes, cut ties with associates who refused to go legitimate. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time, like watching your old life burn while standing in the ashes trying to build something new. But Captain Robert Mitchell was getting closer, piecing together the puzzle one fragment at a time. His investigation into Marcus the restaurant owner kept hitting dead ends, background information that looked real but felt wrong, references that checked out but seemed manufactured. Mitchell had been a cop long enough to know when someone was hiding something, and his instincts were screaming that his daughter's boyfriend wasn't who he claimed to be. So he started digging deeper, pulling favors from colleagues, running facial recognition software, cross-referencing databases. And then one night, working late at his desk while the precinct emptied around him, Mitchell found it. A surveillance photo from 3 years ago, grainy but clear enough, showing Marcus at a meeting with known criminals. The facial recognition software flagged it with 97% certainty. Mitchell stared at the screen, his blood running cold as he realized the truth. His daughter's boyfriend, the man Sophie was falling in love with, was Marcus Kane, the crime boss he'd been hunting for 7 years. The rage that filled Mitchell in that moment was unlike anything he'd ever felt. This wasn't just professional anymore, wasn't just about justice or putting away a criminal. This was personal, visceral, a violation that cut straight to his core. Marcus Kane had infiltrated his family, had gotten close to his daughter, had used her in some sick game that Mitchell couldn't fully understand yet. He spent the rest of the night building his case, gathering evidence, preparing to bring Marcus down once and for all. But there was a complication, a wrinkle that made everything more difficult. If Mitchell arrested Marcus now, if he exposed him publicly, Sophie would be caught in the crossfire. Her name would be dragged through the media, her reputation destroyed, her life turned upside down by association. And despite their strained relationship, despite all the years of distance and resentment, Mitchell still loved his daughter more than anything in the world. He couldn't just charge in guns blazing, couldn't sacrifice her to get his revenge. He needed to be smart, strategic, needed to find a way to take Marcus down without destroying Sophie in the process. So Mitchell did something unexpected, something that went against every instinct he had as a cop. He reached out to Marcus directly, sent a message through channels he knew Marcus would see, requesting a private meeting. Marcus almost ignored it, almost ran, but curiosity and a strange sense of inevitability made him agree. They met in an abandoned warehouse near the docks, just the two of them, no backup, no witnesses. Mitchell stood there in his civilian clothes looking older and more tired than Marcus remembered from that dinner weeks ago. "You know why I asked you here?" Mitchell said, his voice steady but filled with barely contained fury. Marcus nodded, said he figured the captain had put it together. "And here we are," Marcus added, "the moment of truth." Mitchell paced, his hand instinctively moving toward where his gun would normally be, but he wasn't armed, had made the conscious choice to come without his weapon because he knew this conversation required something other than force. "My daughter," Mitchell said, the words thick with emotion. "You got involved with my daughter. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you understand the position you've put her in?" Marcus took a breath, met Mitchell's eyes directly, and said something he never thought he'd say to a cop. "I love her," Marcus said simply. "I know that doesn't change anything, doesn't excuse the lies or the danger I've brought into her life, but it's the truth. I love Sophie more than I've ever loved anyone or anything, and I'm trying to get out, trying to leave this life behind so I can be someone worthy of her." Mitchell laughed, but there was no humor in it, just bitter disbelief. "You think it's that easy? You think you can just walk away from who you are, from the blood on your hands, from the lives you've destroyed? Men like you don't change, Kane. You're a criminal, a predator, and you've manipulated my daughter into believing you're something you're not." Marcus felt anger rising but pushed it down, knowing that Mitchell had every right to feel this way, knowing that from the captain's perspective he was the villain in this story. "Maybe you're right," Marcus said, "maybe I don't deserve redemption, maybe I've done too much damage to ever be clean. But Sophie saw something in me that I'd forgotten existed, something human underneath all the violence and crime. And for the first time in my life I want to be better, want to earn that faith she's put in me. I'm dismantling everything, walking away from the organization, trying to build a legitimate life. It's not about running from consequences, it's about choosing a different path while I still can." Mitchell studied him for a long moment, and Marcus could see the war happening behind those cop eyes, the struggle between justice and protecting his daughter, between doing his job and being a father. Finally Mitchell spoke, his voice low and dangerous. "Here's how this is gonna work," he said. "You're gonna finish getting out, completely and permanently. No halfway, no keeping one foot in the game, you're done. And then you're gonna cooperate with me, gonna give me everything I need to take down your organization, everyone you worked with, every operation, every crime. You do that and I'll find a way to keep Sophie out of it, to protect her from the fallout. But the moment you slip, the moment you go back to that life or try to deceive me, I will bring the full force of the law down on you so hard you'll wish you'd never been born. And Marcus," Mitchell added, stepping closer, "if you ever hurt my daughter, if you break her heart or put her in danger, there won't be a hole deep enough for you to hide in. I will find you and cop or not, I will end you. Do we understand each other? Marcus nodded, accepted the terms without hesitation, because this was the only way forward, the only path that kept Sophie safe and gave him a shot at the life he wanted. Over the next 2 months, Marcus did exactly what he promised. He gave Mitchell everything: testimony, evidence, financial records, names and locations of every major player in his former organization. It was betrayal on a massive scale, violated every code he'd ever lived by, but Marcus didn't care anymore. His loyalty now was to Sophie, to the future they were trying to build, to becoming someone who could look at himself in the mirror without disgust. The arrests came in waves, dozens of people Marcus once called friends and associates taken down by the LAPD and FBI in coordinated raids. Marcus's name was kept out of it, part of the deal Mitchell arranged, but there were people who knew, people who figured out where the information came from, people who marked Marcus as a traitor and put a price on his head. The danger became real and immediate. Marcus and Sophie had to relocate, change their lives completely, live under new identities in a different city far from LA. Mitchell arranged witness protection, pulled strings to keep them safe, and despite everything, despite the hatred and resentment he still felt toward Marcus, the captain kept his word. Because at the end of the day, Sophie's happiness mattered more than his need for revenge, and Mitchell could see that his daughter had found something real, something worth protecting, even if it came in the most unlikely package. The last time Marcus saw Captain Mitchell was at the airport before they left California. Mitchell handed him an envelope and said, "Take care of her, be the man she believes you are, because if you're not, I'll find you." And Marcus promised, shook the captain's hand, and walked away from everything he'd ever known toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Now here's where things get really interesting, because the story of Marcus and Sophie, of love and redemption and second chances, that's just the beginning. What happened next, how they built their new life, the ghosts from Marcus's past that came looking for him, the ultimate test of whether love can truly conquer darkness, that's a whole other chapter. And honestly, it's even more intense than what you just heard. If you want to know what happens when Marcus's old enemies finally track him down, if you're curious about whether Sophie's faith in him was justified or if the darkness pulled him back in, if you need to see how Captain Mitchell deals with the aftermath of his impossible choice, then you gotta check out the next video in this series. I promise you the continuation will blow your mind even more than this part did. We're talking life or death situations, impossible choices, and a twist that nobody sees coming. So don't go anywhere, click on the next video right now, because trust me, you've come this far and you need to see how this story really ends. The link is right there on your screen, and I'm telling you, you won't regret it. This is the kind of story that stays with you, that makes you think about love and loyalty and what we're willing to sacrifice for the people we care about. So come on, let's finish this journey together. Click that next video and let's see where Marcus and Sophie's story really goes, because what I just told you is only half of what happened, and the second half is absolutely wild.